Ooh, a panda. I don't think I've ever seen a panda before. Auto Kelp Farm. Amazing. Alright, today we are looking at a farm that I had in my JavaScript world. I keep saying JavaScript. It's just Java, man, Java. My Java world that makes kelp blocks. This is one of my first farms that I created, I think. Kelp blocks for fuel. I'm not sure if it still works, so we'll have to test it. But this is the Java version, so you can kind of see it in here. All it does, like, you just plant the kelp here. It grows up once one of the kelp hits those observers up the top. Then all of these pistons down the bottom fire. The kelp flows up and then over and then down into this side, which it goes into hoppers and composters and then ends up as bone meal. But you can also set this to kelp, I think, if you don't have this second section enabled. Then you can just keep it as kelp and turn it into blocks and use that as fuel. Alright, we're over in Bedrock now, so I'm just going to clear out an area for this farm. And then I'm going to test what items we need. More of a chilled build, this one. I'm not going to be fast forwarding too much, and you can build along as I build it. If it works. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably never publish it, and then I'm just talking to myself. Ooh, a panda. I don't think I've ever seen a panda before. Pandas. Alright, I'm just doing a very quick test version of this to see if it does work indeed in Bedrock. So, this is just a very basic version. You can see we've got the pistons down the bottom here, one block up from the kelp, which will break them when they grow up to here. We just have to fill these in with water. And then at the back, we have, on the back of these pistons, we have a line of blocks and then redstone here. And then we just put an observer facing up. So this observer here is looking at this row of redstone. So when these detect anything in front of them, it powers this, which then powers this line and then fires the pistons down the bottom. So I just got to test it now. I'll just fill it with water. How do you get the water blocks to fill there again without it being annoying? You do this, I think. Oh, that worked. And then we just get the kelp and run them up, and then it makes these into water blocks, I think. Yes. So now we just fill these up. And then if we put one here, there. Yeah, it is working. You can see the kelp's actually sitting down the bottom. We're going to get the kelp to float up the top. I'm just testing it with soul soil because that usually creates a bubble stream, but it doesn't seem to be doing it in this case. Let's watch these kelp. Some of them stick down the bottom and some of them float up the top. Man, I don't know why they're just sitting there. So I've been testing this for a while and I can't actually get the kelp to grow up here. So I think that I'm going to try a new method. See how the kelp always goes to the bottom? So I'm going to try a method with mud on this one. Alright, this is a bit of a different one that I have been testing. And it's a little bit dodgy, but it definitely works better than this passive one. And it's a lot more efficient as we can just chuck bone meal in it. And it actually grows and then harvests the kelp automatically. If you've got a bit of bone meal, this is a good one. The passive one's okay as well. This will work. You can put a chest under this one and it will grow very slowly, as you can see. But this one actually grows and harvests it. So if we just put a top on this one, then we won't get it ejecting out the top as much. And then it just gets harvested down into this chest. I'm still figuring out a nice way of doing the redstone here because it's a little bit of a mess back here. But this is version 1. Alright, here we go with the actual build. I have extracted the items from this one. And we will test it. I just changed it a little bit so that it works even better than I did before. Just to do with the timings over here. So the items we will need are a kelp, mud block, some solid blocks, glass if you want to see what it's doing, or you can just cover it in solid blocks, 2 chests, or 3 if you want one for the items, a repeater, 2 dispensers we need, 2 observers, 2 hoppers, 2 buckets of water, and we need heaps of bone meal for this one, but it depends how many kelp you want. Alright, grab the items and we will start the build. Alright, starting off with our double chest, or you can put a single chest. You probably need a double. And then we want a hopper to go into that chest. Somehow there's water under here, that's weird. Hopefully that doesn't affect it. Then on top of this we want to put a mud block, which is where our items will go. So we're going to grow kelp on there, but not yet. Now we want to do 2 dispensers. So these will go... Put a solid block there, if you like, doesn't really matter. Put dispenser facing this way. This one will grow the kelp. Actually, this will dispense the bone meal. And then we're going to put a hopper in there with our bone meal in the hopper. If you want, you can put a chest on there, so you can fill that with bone meal if you've got heaps. And then another dispenser on top of that. You can stand on this one, and then shift click that one. And this one, we will put a bucket of water in there, and then that will grow, well, that will allow the kelp to grow up one, and then it will remove the bucket, and then the kelp will break. So now we want to encase this with glass so that the kelp cannot escape. Pretty much just around here. You can go all the way down the bottom, because sometimes the kelp does like to escape out the corners of the glass blocks for some reason. And then we have to go all the way around the top. You could even encase the top there if you really wanted to, because that will still work with the bone meal. Depends if you want a chest on it. Alright, and then we will want to put a solid water block down the bottom here for where our kelp is going to grow, and you can plant your single kelp there. And that is ready for that section. Now we just have to build this weird looking contraption here. This is probably not the most efficient way of doing this. You can do that redstone neater, but this one works for me. So let's get our... This is actually annoying to place these. So we want to put them facing each other so we've got a pulse. So that one has to be facing that way. And then this one we want to face there. So this is now our redstone pulse. And we're going to use that to connect to the back of this one. Now you can use glass blocks for this if you want, I think, because that shouldn't really affect the redstone, but we do need a solid block here. So just place solid block, just hold shift on there. And then I'm going to come out 1, 2 from here. So you got 1 there on the back, and then 2 there, and then come down, oh, not that far, 1 block down here. And you're in the way, chest. Get out of the way. Anyway, that should be fine. And then just come back along here like this. So we're going to run. Then we'll grab our redstone. Where did my redstone go? Oh, there should have been redstone in that box. Was there not redstone? That's one of the items that I missed then. I always miss one item every farm. Okay, so we need redstone here. So that's pulsing. And then this will then start this bucket on and off, which will start it growing. And then to power the one down the bottom, we want to run a repeater here, which should give it a little bit of a delay. And then down along here, did that work? We had to extend it out one. All right, let's put another solid block here, and then we run the redstone down like this. There we go. So it comes out into the repeater, down 1, and then pulses this to fire the bone meal out of this bottom one. And then you can see it all breaks. So if you want, you should put probably a top on there because the kelp can pop out of there. Does look cool though. And then hopefully there is kelp in here. Nice. Auto kelp farm complete. That worked out well. I didn't think I'd get that done today, actually. But there we go. Auto kelp farm. Amazing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Yeah, better put a top on that.